This story is titled, My Future Wife, not anymore, asked for a break before the wedding to prepare herself. Then I saw her with her ex at a restaurant, so I threw out her stuff, canceled all wedding payments, and sold her wedding gift Mercedes. Hey Reddit, I'm a 31-year-old male and the owner of a custom motorcycle shop in San Diego. I've been grinding since I was 22 and finally got the shop fully established last year. It wasn't easy. I busted my ass working 60+ hours a week for years. I started with just myself in a tiny garage space that I rented from an old mechanic who was retiring. Now, I've got 4 full-time employees and a reputation for some of the cleanest custom work in Southern California. The shop wasn't handed to me on a silver platter either. I saved every dollar I made working at other shops. I took night classes on business management and lived in a studio apartment the size of a shoebox for 3 years just to build my capital from nothing. There's something deeply satisfying about walking into my shop every morning and knowing that every bolt, every tool, every square inch is there because I earned it. I've never been the type to splurge on fancy stuff. My dad watched his brother lose everything in a nasty divorce back in the 90s. His house, retirement savings, and he even had to liquidate his small business to pay the settlement. Because of that experience, my dad drilled financial responsibility into my head from day one. Ryan, build your own safety net because nobody else will, he would tell me. That advice turned out to be a lifesaver. I remember when I bought my first proper tool set. My dad came over to my apartment and saw me organizing these brand new snap-on wrenches. He just nodded approvingly and said, "Good investment. Tools make money. Toys don't." Then he helped me build a custom storage solution for them using scrap wood from his garage. That's my dad. Practical advice followed by practical help. I bought my apartment 3 years ago when the market dipped slightly. The rest of my money goes straight to investment accounts and the shop. The only exceptions to my frugal lifestyle are my Ducati Monster, midnight black with custom exhaust that sounds like pure mechanical poetry, and my dog Thor, a 3-year-old German Shepherd who's been with me since he was a puppy. Sometimes I take Thor to the shop with me, and the customers love him. He just chills by my office, occasionally greeting people with a tennis ball in his mouth. Thor has been the most consistent relationship in my life. No drama, no complaints about working late, just pure loyalty. He's the kind of companion who's equally happy going for a mountain run or just lying at my feet while I work on engine blueprints. My fiancée Vanessa, 29F, and I had been together for 2 years and were engaged for the last 6 months. We had our wedding planned for this fall and had already put down deposits on the venue, catering, and all the works. She moved into my apartment after the first year, and things seemed good on the surface. She had her career, I had mine with the shop, and we had our whole future mapped out. Meeting Vanessa was one of those things that seemed like fate at the time. A friend of a friend introduced us at a housewarming party. She was gorgeous with blonde hair that was always perfectly styled, the kind of woman who turns heads when she walks into a room. She was smart too, always had the right thing to say to clients, and knew how to work a room. Our first few dates were perfect. She seemed interested in my business, asked all the right questions, and laughed at my jokes. Thinking back now, there were some red flags I ignored. She'd make comments about my friends being too basic because they liked sports and gaming. She called my best friend Trevor's apartment a man cave nightmare just because he had gaming consoles and a big TV. Trevor never liked her much and said she had princess vibes. He was always watching how she acted differently around certain people. Notice how she talks to that waiter versus how she talks to your landlord, he'd point out. I brushed it off as her being socially adaptable. That's what we do as guys sometimes. We see what we want to see. When a woman who looks like she could be on a magazine cover shows interest, we ignore the warning signs. It's a basic male programming error. But I ignored all that because I thought we were solid. The sex was great. She looked amazing on my arm at industry events, and I thought I'd found someone who respected my grind. When she hinted about marriage, I thought, why not? I was established and ready to start the next chapter. It was just a random evening in May when everything changed. I was prepping dinner. Yeah, I did most of the cooking even after working all day at the shop, while she was too tired from sitting at a desk. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa that hit me like a gut punch. Ryan, things feel complicated. I'm stressing over the wedding and I really need some space to think and figure things out. Don't contact me for a while, please. I'll reach out when I'm ready. 6 months from our wedding and she needs space? No warning, no conversation, just a text asking me to effectively disappear while she figured things out. But fine, I tried to be understanding. I texted back, Okay, I understand. Take the time you need. Then nothing. Radio silence. Which is what she asked for, after all. I spent the next couple days in a fog. I couldn't focus at work. I was trying to finish a custom seat for a 72 Triumph when Trevor stopped by the shop. He watched me sand the leather for like 20 minutes before saying, "Dude, that seat was done half an hour ago. You're just going through the motions." He was right. I put down the tools and closed the shop early for the first time in months. Trevor came over Thursday night with burritos and told me bluntly, "Dude, this isn't normal. Nobody asks for space 6 months before their wedding unless they're doing something shady." I defended her at first. Maybe she's really just stressed about the wedding. Her mom's been putting a lot of pressure on her about the guest list, I said. But even to my own ears, it sounded weak. Trevor just gave me that look, the one that says, "You're smarter than this," without having to speak the words. He'd been my friend since high school, seen me through my mom's death, helped me move shop locations twice, and never asked for anything in return. He's the kind of friend who shows up with tools when you mention a project, not excuses when you need help. Then Friday night, I got a text from Vanessa's friend Olivia, one of her coworkers who I'd always gotten along with. "Ryan, I think you should see this. I feel bad showing you, but you deserve to know," she wrote. Attached was a screenshot from Vanessa's Instagram close friends story that Olivia was part of. The pictures showed bright sunshine, beach, cocktails, and Vanessa looking ridiculously happy, arm in arm with Nathan, her ex-boyfriend. The caption read, "Living our best lives. Island getaway reunited," followed by, "Sometimes you need to revisit the past to see your future clearly." My blood ran cold. Space to think meant a tropical vacation with her ex-boyfriend while explicitly asking me for no contact. And she was dumb enough to post it on her close friend's story, forgetting Olivia and I were friendly. I called Olivia for details. Turns out Vanessa had told everyone at work she was taking vacation days for a family emergency. Apparently, the emergency involved bikinis, pina coladas, and her ex-boyfriend's tongue down her throat in several other photos Olivia sent me. The hurt quickly morphed into something else, a cold, hard clarity. She didn't just want space. She wanted me out of the way while she drove her old relationship, keeping me as a backup plan, all while living in my apartment, using my resources, telling me to leave her alone, and our wedding venues sitting on my deposits with her engagement ring on her finger in those beach photos. Fine. Saturday morning, I went into tactical mode. First call, wedding venue, canceled. I lost the $5,000 deposit, but whatever. That's cheaper than a divorce. Second call, caterer, another $2,000 gone. Then the photographer, florist, DJ, one by one, I methodically erased the wedding she'd spent months planning. Next call, locksmith. I had the deadbolt and knob lock on my apartment door changed, which cost about $250, but was worth every penny. I spent the next hour going through paperwork, documenting everything I'd paid for versus what she had. The reality was sobering. My contribution had been about 80% of our shared expenses. Next, I dealt with the ring. Vanessa had conveniently left it on her nightstand before leaving. Probably didn't want tan lines in her beach pics with Nathan. It was a 3-carat diamond that cost me nearly $15,000. I put it in my safe along with the documentation showing I had purchased it. In California, engagement rings are considered conditional gifts, so I was covered legally. The car situation requires some context. About 6 months ago, Vanessa's old Honda finally died. Timing belt went, bent the valves, would have cost more to fix than the car was worth. She needed reliable transportation for client meetings, but her credit was trash after maxing out credit cards on designer bags and those $300 face creams. I agreed to help. I bought a used but very decent Mazda 6 for about $18,000. The loan, title, and insurance were all solely in my name. I'm not stupid. My dad's brother made that mistake. Let his ex-wife drive a car he was paying for during their separation. She totaled it, wasn't properly insured, and he still had to pay off the loan while being sued by the other driver. That wasn't going to happen to me. The understanding was she'd make payments to me, which she did sometimes, late, and it was her car to use. But legally, it was 100% mine. I never added her to anything. So I took the spare key, drove it to a dealership that buys used cars, and explained, "I'm the registered owner. Need to sell." They offered around $16,500 pending inspection. I signed the initial paperwork and left the car there, her designated parking spot at the apartment complex now empty. The manager at the dealership raised an eyebrow when I explained I was selling my fiance's car. I just shrugged and said, "She wanted space. I'm giving her about 16,500 feet of it. I called Trevor to pick me up." "Damn, you're ice cold right now. But she deserves it," he said. We spent the weekend boxing up her stuff from the apartment, not throwing it out, just getting it ready. Every designer shoe, I counted 37 pairs. Every overpriced handbag, every piece of jewelry I'd given her for birthdays and anniversaries, all carefully packed away. We found some interesting things during the packing process. There were credit card statements showing thousands in debt she'd never mentioned to me. I discovered a hidden stash of emergency cash, about $800, taped to the back of her dresser. Most tellingly, I found a journal where she'd written pros and cons lists about me versus Nathan, dated just 3 months ago. My name had financial stability and good future father in the pros column. Nathan had exciting, passionate, and history together on his side. Looking at her current location, it was pretty clear which way she was leaning. I also had a meeting with my lawyer where I shared the screenshots from Olivia, explained the situation, and asked about protecting myself legally. At least California is not a common law marriage state, so that was in my favor. We'd never merged finances. My apartment was solely in my name, and the car was legally mine as well. He advised me to document everything: the engagement termination, the car sale, the items in the apartment, and told me to communicate only in writing going forward. Through it all, I felt calm, like I was performing necessary surgery. Did I feel like a complete idiot? Absolutely. But emotions weren't driving this bus. Logic was. She had asked for space and no contact. She had demonstrated the relationship was over by vacationing with her ex. I was simply respecting her request and protecting myself in the process. The shop was quiet that weekend, but I went in anyway, just to have somewhere to be. I started reorganizing the tool room, deep cleaning equipment, and updating our inventory system. All those things that get pushed aside during busy weeks. There's something therapeutic about bringing order to a space when your personal life is in chaos. Diego, my head mechanic, came in for a few hours to help with a rush job. He didn't ask why I was there on a Sunday, just handed me tools when I needed them. That's what I appreciate about the guys at the shop. They understand that sometimes you need to work with your hands to process what's happening in your head. According to Instagram, the best life vacation lasted another week. The countdown to meltdown was on. One small mercy in all this: at least my Ducati was safe. Vanessa had always complained about it being too dangerous and a waste of money, but I'd stood firm on keeping it. When Trevor picked me up from the dealership, he looked at me and said, "Bike ride this weekend? You need it." He was right. She'd actually tried to get me to sell the Ducati about 6 months into our relationship, suggesting we could use that money for a down payment on a bigger place. Never mind that I already owned my apartment and had no interest in taking on more debt for a bigger place we didn't need. The Ducati stayed, and now I was grateful for that small victory. Sunday morning, we took our bikes up through the mountains. Trevor on his Kawasaki, me on the Ducati. The focus required to handle those curves at speed was exactly what I needed. It's impossible to think about relationship drama when you're calculating lean angles and watching for gravel patches that could send you off the road. The one part I did feel guilty about was Thor. Vanessa had technically agreed to our dog, but she'd never really taken care of him. She'd complained about his fur, his energy, and the cost of his food. Still, I worried he'd be confused when she didn't come back. Turns out I didn't need to worry. Thor seemed happier with just me there, claiming the whole couch without being shooed off constantly. Vanessa's tropical getaway with Nathan lasted a total of 10 days. Then D-Day arrived. Tuesday evening around 9 p.m., I was having a beer with Trevor, who had insisted on being there in case shit gets wild, when we heard keys jangling outside, then confused scraping at the lock followed by pounding. "Ryan, open the door! My key isn't working!" Vanessa shouted. Trevor glanced at me. "Showtime." I opened the door halfway. Vanessa stood there looking beach-tanned and furious with her suitcase beside her. "What the hell? Why isn't my key working?" she demanded. "Because I changed the locks, Vanessa," I replied, my voice steady. Her eyes widened. "You what? Why would you do that?" "You asked for space and no contact, Vanessa. I gave it to you permanently. Weddings canceled too. Already called everyone." "What are you talking about? I just needed some time to think," she protested. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot Olivia had sent me. "Think about this? With Nathan on your romantic beach getaway that you posted about?" Her face went from angry to panic-stricken in a millisecond. That was just... Olivia showed you that? It's not what it looks like. Looks like my fiancé on vacation with her ex while I'm home planning our wedding. Pretty self-explanatory, I stated flatly. It was a last-minute thing. He was going through a hard time and needed someone to talk to, she insisted. Trevor snorted from behind me. I just stared at her. So you flew to Maui to be his therapist? I asked. Her eyes darted to the empty parking spot then. Where's my car, Ryan? The entitlement in her voice was unreal, like I'd hidden her toy. It's not your car. Never was. It's being sold. Title, loan, insurance, all in my name, I explained. You're selling my car? You can't do that. I've been making payments. She actually stomped her foot like a child. Payments for using my car, which is now over. This is insane! I'm calling the cops! She pulled out her phone threateningly. Trevor, who'd been watching silently until now, started laughing. Yeah, call them. Tell them your ex-fiancé is selling his own car and changed the locks on his own apartment after you cheated. That'll go well. Vanessa looked like she'd just noticed him standing there. This isn't your business, Trevor! You made it my business when you decided to mess around on my best friend, he shot back. She turned back to me with a suddenly softer expression. Ryan, baby, you're overreacting. Nathan means nothing to me. It was just a stupid trip to clear my head. I realized I want to be with you. I almost laughed at the performance. Save it. Your stuff is boxed up. Text me when you want to pick it up. That's when her sister Natalie, 25, appeared from the elevator. Great. Reinforcements. Natalie was Vanessa's mini-me. Same entitled attitude, same expensive taste, same tendency to treat service workers like furniture. The only difference was Natalie hadn't found her own sucker to bankroll her lifestyle yet. What's going on? She demanded. Ryan, Vanessa said, now with full waterworks. He changed the locks! He sold my car! He canceled our wedding! Natalie glared at me like I'd committed war crimes. After everything my sister has done for you, you just throw her out? Trevor snorted again. What exactly has she done for him besides taking a beach vacation with her ex? I held up a hand, cutting off the brewing argument. Check her Instagram. We're done. From inside the apartment, Thor started barking at all the commotion. Vanessa's eyes widened. Are you keeping Thor too? The audacity was breathtaking. The dog whose name you couldn't remember half the time. That dog? I replied coldly. She needed space to think, not for you to ruin her life. Natalie was practically screaming now. She made choices. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Your stuff will be in the lobby tomorrow at noon. 1 hour window. If it's not picked up, it goes to Goodwill. I shut the door and locked it. Through the door, I could hear Vanessa's meltdown intensifying. Trevor just shook his head. Dude, bullet dodged. Want another drink? Thor, who'd been anxiously watching the door, came over and put his head on my knee. I scratched behind his ears reassuringly. It's just us now, buddy. Trevor raised his bottle. To the most expensive lesson you'll ever learn. I clinked my bottle against his. Worth every penny. Later that night, after Trevor left, I sat on my balcony looking at the city lights. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe freely. No more explaining why I needed to work late at the shop. No more defending time with my friends. I sent a quick text to my dad. It's done. Locks changed, car sold, wedding canceled. His response came a minute later. Proud of you, son. Come by for steaks this weekend. Bring Thor. Your mom would have kicked her ass, by the way. That made me smile. Mom had been gone for 6 years, but Dad was right. She'd have seen through Vanessa in a heartbeat. The next day was like watching someone realize gravity exists after stepping off a cliff. Vanessa's texts started at 6 a.m. You can't do this to me. Where am I supposed to live? I need my car for work. We need to talk about this like adults. I made a mistake, but you're being cruel. I didn't respond to any of them. Trevor and I loaded up her boxes and brought them to the lobby at noon sharp. I'd even organized everything by category, the kind of courtesy she didn't deserve, but I provided anyway because I'm not an animal. Vanessa showed up with Natalie and their mom Deborah in tow. Deborah, the source of Vanessa's entitlement, immediately launched into me. Ryan, this is completely unacceptable behavior. Vanessa made one mistake. She was confused. She's under so much pressure with the wedding. Not anymore, she's not, I replied calmly, gesturing to the boxes. Everything's here. You have 1 hour. My daughter lived there for a year, Deborah protested. Without being on the lease, without paying rent, driving a car she didn't own. Seems like the free ride is over, Deborah. Deborah's face turned purple. Vanessa was alternating between crying and glaring daggers at me. Natalie was on her phone, probably updating the rest of the family drama group chat. I left them to it, told the doorman they had until 1 p.m., then went for lunch with Trevor. When we came back, they were gone along with her stuff. Mission accomplished. But it didn't end there. The texts and calls multiplied. Vanessa, Natalie, Deborah, even their dad got in on it. When blocking their numbers didn't work, they started using friends' phones. The narrative they were spinning was something else. According to them, I had brutally discarded Vanessa over one misunderstanding, stolen her car and kept her apartment. Of course, there was no mention of the beach vacation with the ex. Vanessa's social media went into overdrive. She posted vague statements about trusting the wrong person and healing from betrayal. A particularly dramatic one showed her staring wistfully out a window with the caption, "Sometimes the people you take a bullet for are the ones behind the trigger." The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then our mutual friend started hitting me up. "Dude, that's cold. Selling her car like that. Man, couldn't you have given her more time to find a place?" Olivia, bless her, was shutting that down wherever she could. "He has screenshots, people! She was on a romantic trip with her ex while engaged!" Vanessa must have figured out Olivia sent me the screenshots, because soon Olivia was texting me. She got me fired. Told our boss I was creating a hostile work environment by meddling in her personal life. That pissed me off more than anything else. Olivia had done the right thing, and Vanessa destroyed her job out of spite. I immediately called Olivia and offered to help her with references, connections, whatever she needed. It was the least I could do. Olivia thanked me. I knew she was self-centered, but I didn't think she'd go this far. I promised to put her in touch with some industry contacts who might be hiring. She had skills. Vanessa's vindictiveness shouldn't derail her career. That night, Trevor came over for our weekly gaming session. We fired up Call of Duty while Thor lounged at our feet. My phone kept buzzing with texts from Vanessa using yet another friend's number. Trevor grabbed my phone between rounds and started reading them in a high-pitched, mocking voice. "You're making a huge mistake, Ryan. I was confused, but I chose you. Please respond." Trevor scrolled to the next one, adding dramatic flair. "My mother is very disappointed in you and says you're behaving childishly." I clutched my chest in fake horror. "Guess I'll just cry myself to sleep on my Ducati." Trevor read another. "I hope you know you're breaking my heart. I cried all night thinking about our wedding." Trevor nearly choked on his drink. "Oh my God, she's seriously complaining about missing her wedding after cheating on you?" My phone buzzed again. Trevor looked at it and burst out laughing. "Dude, she just texted, 'I miss Thor, he misses me too, dogs need a mother.'" I glanced at Thor, who was contentedly chewing his favorite toy, completely unbothered. Yeah, he's clearly devastated. Look at him, practically wasting away from grief. Trevor was still scrolling through my messages. Wait, here's one from her dad. "Ryan, I've always respected you as a businessman, but your behavior towards my daughter is unacceptable. We expect you to make this right." Trevor looked up at me. "What exactly does make this right mean? Give her back the car you paid for? Let her live in your apartment rent-free?" I shrugged. Probably all of the above, plus a groveling apology for having the audacity to be upset about her cheating. The whole situation was so absurd it had crossed into comedy. Vanessa and her family lived in a world where actions didn't have consequences. At least, not for them. In their version of reality, I was the villain for responding logically to her betrayal. At work, I focused on a new project, a vintage Honda CB 750 that a client had dropped off for a complete restoration. There's something therapeutic about tearing down an engine to its individual components, cleaning each part, and building it back up better than before. The shop became my sanctuary, a place where problems had logical solutions and every task had a clear beginning and end. My employees noticed the change in me. Diego, my head mechanic, finally asked what was up after I spent 3 straight hours reconfiguring a wiring harness without taking a break. I gave him the highlight reel. His response was perfect, a slow nod then. Women, man. My cousin went through the same thing. You want me to order those brake calipers for the Triumph while you finish that wiring? That's what I needed. Practical solutions, not drama. The shop stayed open late that week as I threw myself into work. Nothing cures heartbreak like productivity and a bank account that's growing instead of bleeding money on someone else's desires. Dad stopped by the shop on Thursday with lunch, a tradition he'd started when I first opened the place. He'd bring sandwiches from this little deli near his house, and we'd eat in my office talking about everything and nothing. "How you holding up?" he asked between bites. "Better than expected," I admitted. "Work helps." He nodded. "Your Uncle Dave gained 15 pounds after his divorce, sat around eating microwave burritos and watching game shows." He looked at me. You're doing it right. Stay busy. Keep moving forward. Simple advice, but exactly what I needed to hear. 2 weeks after Vanessa's return, the real harassment campaign started. First came the police. I got home from work to find a patrol car outside my building. 2 officers wanted to talk about a domestic dispute and allegations I was withholding personal property. I showed them the documentation my lawyer had prepared. Proof of car ownership, apartment lease in my name only, canceled wedding receipts, and the screenshot of Vanessa with Nathan. I explained I had given her all her possessions, and they left satisfied this was a relationship issue, not a legal one. One officer actually gave me a knowing look as they were leaving. Document everything from here on out, he advised quietly. These situations tend to escalate. Words of wisdom from someone who'd seen this play out before. The next day, I got a call from my landlord about a noise complaint. Apparently, an anonymous neighbor reported loud arguments and possible domestic disturbances. I explained the situation. Thankfully, I had a good relationship with the property manager. She admitted she'd seen Vanessa trying to tailgate residents into the building several times against policy. Then things escalated. Vanessa and Natalie started showing up at my workplace, just happening to be in the lobby when I was leaving. Once, Vanessa tried to force her way into the elevator with me, screaming about how I'd ruined her life. "Boss, want us to call security?" Diego asked, positioning himself between Vanessa and me. I nodded, and they escorted the sisters out. My team had my back, no questions asked. This was getting out of control. I filed a police report documenting the harassment, started recording every interaction, saved every text and voicemail, installed a security camera at my apartment door connected to my phone, and gave the front desk a photo of Vanessa with instructions not to let her up under any circumstances. The breaking point came when I woke up to find my car's tires slashed. Security cameras caught Natalie doing it at 3 a.m. The footage was crystal clear, her face clearly visible as she knelt by each tire, methodically puncturing them with what looked like a hunting knife. Police were called and charges filed. The incident report put the damage at over $800. All 4 tires were high-performance ones I'd upgraded to last year. Thankfully, my insurance covered it after the deductible, but the hassle of getting the car towed and fixed was a major inconvenience. I was paranoid about the Ducati after that. I started parking it in a secure garage a block away just in case. No way I was letting them get to my baby. That bike represented the reward for years of hard work. If they damaged it, I'm not sure I could have maintained my composure. That same day, I got an email from Nathan of all people. "Man, I'm sorry about all this. She told me you two were already over before our trip. I didn't know you were still engaged," he wrote. "She's been showing up at my place too. Just thought you should know." Turns out Vanessa had fed him a complete fiction, that we'd broken up weeks before, that I was possessive and wouldn't accept it was over. When he found out the truth from mutual friends, he ended things immediately. Now she was showing up at his apartment unannounced, crying, demanding another chance. "Bullet dodged, brother," he said before hanging up. I couldn't argue with that. Later, I found out Vanessa had been spreading rumors that I was abusive, that I controlled her finances, that I'd trapped her in the relationship. Classic Darvo: deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. She was casting herself as the victim of a controlling monster rather than a woman who got caught cheating and lost her meal ticket. The problem with her narrative: too many people had seen the reality. My neighbors had seen me walking Thor alone every night while she was inside watching Netflix. My employees had seen her showing up demanding money when her credit cards were maxed out. Our friends had seen how she treated service staff when she thought no one important was watching. Through it all, Trevor and Olivia were solid. Trevor even let Vanessa know through a mutual friend that I was documenting everything for a restraining order. Olivia, despite losing her job, sent me additional screenshots of Vanessa bragging about the beach trip to Friends before she left. Ryan thinks I'm just taking time to think LOL. Meanwhile, Nathan and I will be living it up in paradise. The screenshots had timestamps, dates, the whole 9 yards. Undeniable evidence of premeditated deception. I added it all to the growing file my lawyer was keeping. I called my dad after the tire slashing incident. "They're escalating," I told him. "Slashed my tires, showing up at work, spreading rumors." "Makes sense," he said, surprisingly calm. "How does any of this make sense?" I asked, frustrated. "Son, you took away her free ride. People don't give up resources without a fight. Your uncle's ex-wife did the same. Keyed his truck, told the neighbors he was cheating. It's what happens when the gravy train stops rolling." He paused, then added, "Got your security camera set up like I showed you?" "Yes, sir. Caught her sister on video with the knife." Good man. I filed for the restraining order, armed with a mountain of evidence. The workplace incidents, the slashed tires, the constant harassment, the false police reports, and dozens of messages from different numbers after being blocked. The hearing was scheduled, and I was ready. The restraining order hearing was like watching a live-action version of the surprised Pikachu meme. Vanessa showed up with Deborah, both dressed like they were going to church, probably expecting sympathy from the judge. I showed up with my lawyer and a binder full of evidence. Vanessa's strategy became clear quickly. Play the devastated, confused young woman who made one mistake and was now being punished excessively by a controlling ex. It might have worked if we didn't have the receipts. My lawyer methodically laid out the pattern of harassment. The judge flipped through the evidence with an increasingly stern expression. The judge granted the restraining order immediately. 3 years, no contact, within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. That should have been the end, but Vanessa's family had one more card to play, the desperation card. About a month after the hearing, Deborah called. The family was in financial distress. Vanessa couldn't hold a job without transportation. Natalie had legal bills from the vandalism charge. They needed help. Could I please reconsider selling Vanessa her car back to her? Maybe loan them some money to get back on their feet? I laughed so hard. The absolute audacity. These people had tried to destroy my reputation, career, and property, and now wanted financial assistance. Deborah, I said calmly, Vanessa and Natalie are both in violation of the restraining order by having you contact me. I'm forwarding this call to my lawyer and the police. Don't call again. Later, I found out through the grapevine what happened next. Vanessa had been fired from her job. Turns out repeatedly missing work because you don't have a car doesn't fly professionally. The beach trip had maxed out her credit cards. She'd been crashing with her parents, but had succeeded in driving a wedge into their marriage with her constant demands. Nathan? Long gone. He blocked Vanessa after she showed up drunk at his apartment one too many times. Natalie had community service for the tire slashing, plus had to pay restitution. As for me, I sold the engagement ring and took a 2-week vacation to Europe, solo. I posted exactly 0 photos online. When I got back, I painted the whole apartment, bought new furniture, and reclaimed my space. The place looked better than ever. Now it was a clean, functional space where a man and his dog could live in peace. Trevor and I still meet weekly, and he's actually hitting it off with Olivia now, which is an unexpected silver lining. They've been dating for about a month. Sometimes the 4 of us, counting Thor, hang out at my place for game nights. It's nice seeing 2 people who actually treat each other with respect. The shop was thriving too. After that first week of fog, I'd thrown myself into a big custom project, transforming a beat-up Harley Sportster into something special. I stripped it down to the frame, rebuilt the engine with performance parts, and gave it a custom paint job with subtle metal flake that changed color depending on the light. Trevor had come by during the final assembly and whistled when he saw it. Man, you really outdid yourself on this one. The tank paint alone is worth whatever you're charging. The client who commissioned it was so impressed he referred 3 friends, all wanting similar work. Word of mouth in the motorcycle community is better than any advertising you could pay for. Diego and the crew had really stepped up during the whole Vanessa drama too. There were days when I wasn't at my best, and they picked up the slack without complaint. When the Sportster project got featured in a motorcycle magazine, I made sure they all got credit and bonuses. A good team is worth their weight in gold. About 3 months after the restraining order, I was at a motorcycle show in Las Vegas, displaying one of my custom builds. A woman came up and started asking detailed questions about the fabrication work. Not the usual, "it's pretty" comments, but specific technical questions that showed she knew her stuff. Cassandra, 28, turned out to be an industrial designer who wrote a Triumph Street Triple. We exchanged numbers professionally, but ended up texting about bikes, then other things. We've been dating casually for a couple months now. She has her own career, her own apartment, her own money. She scratches Thor behind the ears exactly where he likes it. The first time Cassandra came over, Thor immediately brought her his favorite toy, something he'd never done with Vanessa. Dogs know quality people when they meet them. Cassandra came to Sunday lunch at my dad's house last week. They spent 2 hours talking about motorcycle engine design while I grilled steaks. Dad texted me later. She knows her stuff. Smart pick, son. High praise from a man who's suspicious of everyone by default. I learned more about myself in those few months than in the previous decade. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I have people in my corner who will show up when needed, and that sometimes the best thing you can do with toxic people is cut them out completely. These days, I'm too busy building bikes and building a better life to dwell on what might have been. Some lessons are expensive, but man, are they worth it. Has anyone else had to deal with an ex who couldn't accept the consequences of their actions? How did you handle it?